think of stories as hills. The level of the excitement is the height of the hill. So let's try mapping this on my little whiteboard here. I've drawn a chart. I'm figuring you guys are all familiar with charts at this point in your education, right? So along here, I have the excitement level. From 0, it's like watching paint dry, to 5, it is thrilling, exciting, and just, you know, you're burning with curiosity or you're scared out of your mind or whatever, or it's the best day of your life. All right, so 0 to 5. All right, then across here, I just wrote some little spots where we're going through time in the story, right? So the first thing that happens in the story, we would graph here, then the second thing, so forth. Does that kind of make sense? So with this little thing we have, let's think about, this would not be a typical story that I'm doing right now, right? This will be a weird story, okay? Let's say that the first thing that happens is like, I don't know, maybe a 2. It's, you know, kind of exciting. And then the second thing that happens is like so exciting, really exciting. And then the next thing that happens is like almost like paint drying. And then the next thing that happens is like a 4. And then the next thing that happens is like a 2. And then the next thing that happens is like a 5. All right? Then you would make this into a hill. That would be a really weird story. Most stories don't have that many exciting spots, and, you know, that'd be kind of strange. But do you get how I'm doing it with the hill? Does that make sense? No? Okay. All right, so this is not typical, but there are typical for different types of literature. So I wanted to talk a little bit about a news story. I'm going to guess that none of you read the newspaper, but is there any brave soul that does read the newspaper? Mm-hmm. You read the newspaper?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. She might want that just to wipe off.
Okay, well that's exciting. So I'm so relevant. Thank you. I'm so relevant here, and I didn't even know it. Well, whether you read the newspaper or not, you can probably get an idea. Even if you're someone who doesn't read the newspaper, why do people read the newspaper? For news. For news, to find out what's happening. Whoa, I'm telling you, you guys are on fire. All right, so if you're reading for news, you want to know what's happening, right? You just want to just know, and you want to know not just in one story what's happening, but you want to know in a whole bunch of different places or a whole bunch of different parts of town, whatever. You want to know what's happening. So what a news story does is they hit you right off the bat with the most important thing that you need to know. All right? So we're going to try a news story together here. All right? I'm going to read a sentence, several different sentences, and we're going to rate them according to the number of exclamation points or, you know, the level of excitement in each one. All right? Here's the first sentence. The armed robber who stole $100,000 from a local bank is still on the loose after more than 24 hours.
5.
That's a 5. I mean, he might come and knock on your door. He's on the loose. He's a dangerous criminal. Okay, I agree it's a 5. Okay, how about this one? The police chief said it was the strangest robbery that he ever saw because of the inflatable giraffe found on the front sidewalk of the bank.
3. Yeah, 5.
4.
2.9.
Okay, the average of your answers is a 4. So I'm going to rate it a 4 because that's the average of what you said. Okay.
Listen up.
All right. All of the telephone connections to this area of town are temporarily being tapped so that police can spy on the robber and find out where he is.
Why would they put that in the newspaper?
Okay. Ian, 3, 4, 5.
This is to make a point. You're saying this is not very exciting. 2, 3. I mean, not 3.
Lauren,
Guys that are like paint dry.
don't be disrespectful.
Right? I'm going to say it's either 2 or 3. If you guys are saying 0, I guess I'll downgrade it to a 2. All right? All right. The neighbors said they heard noise at about 1:30 a.m. in the rear of the bank building.
1.
It's not a 0.
1.
Okay, the average answer that I'm getting is a 1. Okay? How about the bank will reopen at 1 p.m. tomorrow?
0.
Reach the paint drying stage. All right? So I'm going to connect my dots here. And this is what a typical news story looks like. It's a downhill, just goes down. So it starts with something that's really exciting, and by the end of the story, they're literally telling you things like, the highway will remain closed through the rest of 2014.
Whoa, that's a long time.
Whatever, okay? Okay. So if this is a typical news story, is this a typical fiction story? No.
No.
If you were going to take this story that I just told you in these 5 sentences, and you were going to make it into a fiction story, what might you say? What would be the first thing that there's different answers that could be possible, right? So it doesn't have to just be one answer. How would you start out with a fiction story?
I'd started out, Jerry was walking down the street when a gigantic giraffe popped up in his face. And then goes on to tell about.
Okay, so you're going to start with the inflatable giraffe, and then later we'll find out there was a robbery. Okay, that's fine.
If I was going to convert that into a news story, I would get your brain wondering why by giving you the bland part of the bank would reopen. Well, was closed and would reopen at a certain time,
Okay, so
and then it would tell you why.
So your plan is to start out with, the bank was closed for 2 days straight in the town of Gumperville, and it was always just a strange thing to see a bank that was closed, right? And then that's kind of what you're like.
And then I wouldn't tell you the 5 point of the robber
Right.
got out and was
You
on
would
the
hold
loose.
that back.
I would say that it was robbed, and then I would say that the robber was on the loose, and then
Okay.
put in the
Okay,
other
so you're kind of building, okay? Other answers? How about from a girl? How would you write this as a story? Okay. So you're starting to go with how that hill would be shaped. All right. So your plan. How would you start it out, Britta? Would you start out with?
Probably one of the middle statements because you want to sort of catch an interest, but you don't want
Okay.
to.
So maybe you're going to start out with a 2,
Yeah.
and then how would you draw?
Go up, sort of.
Okay, so you would go like to a 3, and then maybe a 4, and then a 5, and then what would you do after that? Would that be the last thing you would say, or? Okay, depending, some stories, that is true. It'll just leave you with like, bang, the most exciting thing happens, and that's the end. And other stories, they'll land the plane, it depends. Okay, but this is kind of the typical shape, with or without this part, of a lot of fiction stories. When I was trying it out, I said something like, let me see. As I peered outside my bedroom window, I looked into the street below and wondered, did that shadow just move? I rubbed my eyes and checked again. Yes, there was a man behind the bank. Weird. I went back to bed. In the morning, I checked the news as part of my usual routine, and I was startled to read that the bank had been robbed of $100,000. And I didn't write up to the point that we find out, and he's on the loose. Okay, so you can hear that climbing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. All right. If I am taking part of a story, such as we're going to be doing this, we're doing interps, you're going to hear more about that in just a second, but you're going to be taking something out of literature, all right? If I'm taking part of a story, let's suppose that I select something from right here, or from right here. Let's consider both, all right? Let's suppose that I start at the beginning of the story, and I select that part of the story for my interp. It's a 29-chapter book, and I'm going to summarize chapter 1. How interesting is that likely to be? It's going to be awful. Yes, I agree. Now, let's consider the other issue. If I pick the most exciting thing that happens, and I only summarize chapter, let's say that's chapter 28, I don't know, whatever, and that's the only thing I tell you,
It would be confusing.
yeah, it would be confusing because you don't know, like, wait a minute, who's Jim? Wait, why is he talking to Kathy? Wait a second, I'm confused. Exactly, all right? So that's your challenge, is to find something that makes sense but is exciting. All right.
Part of it too, Rachel, don't you think, can if you're doing the beginning part of a story, you can create curiosity. So wait, I want to know what happened. So you kind of leave this cliffhanger hanging out there like, well, wait, now I want to go get that book and read it because I want to know what happens.
There's a bunch of different ways to do it. Sometimes you can find a climactic moment that was at a different point in the book. If once you get a really long book, it probably has more than one exciting thing that happens, and you can just talk about just one of them. Or you can take just one, that's, I guess, kind of another way of saying it, but you can take just one subplot. So you can take, you know, if there's like 6 different characters, and each one of them has something interesting that happens to them, you don't tell all 6. You just choose one of them, and you tell that one. You tell what you need to tell in order for that to make sense. You get to that exciting point, you tell it, and then you're done. Okay? Kind of making sense? One other thing that I want to just talk about is the number of words that you use at different parts. So if your goal is to tell this exciting part and you have to tell some of the details from here, you want to use more words at the part that's your climax than at the part that's boring. It's kind of like this. At the climax, the author has used things to make that like, this is the top of the hill and oh my goodness. And you want to leave in those words that create that suspense. Like, I mean, if it's, let's suppose that it's, you know, the armed robber is on the loose. How exciting is that if you just say, there was an armed robber on the loose? Not very. But if this author is telling the story, they're like, you know, I thought about it and a chill went up my spine. I thought about it some more and I started to sweat. I was so worried. I looked out the window. Was that a shadow moving? I was so freaked out. I went into the kitchen. I almost burned myself on the pot because my nerves were on edge. Now, you know, I've roped you in. You're starting to get there. You're like, yeah, the armed robber, he's out there, you know. Does that make sense? So you want to leave in all those words. You kind of want to, like, if you were taking a car drive, you're driving through Marvel Cave or Yosemite National Park. How fast do you drive when you're in Yosemite National Park? Okay, we have the Audubon Speedway down here. Any other ideas?
Well, I will tell you one thing.
Yeah?
If you are driving at top speed, the highest speed your car will let you through Yellowstone National Park, number 1, you're probably going to crash into something. Number 2, and more important, sort of, is if you're driving at top speed, you won't be able to see anything. It's like, oh, is that a bird?
Right.
Oh, wait, I think that was a cliff. Or was it?
You're
No,
not
wait.
going to be able to appreciate
Oh, wait, there's a hill. Oh, wait,
That's
there's
right.
a hill.
So-
Or was that a mountain? Or is that a valley?
Right. So you want to slow down when you're driving through this beautiful, you know, amazing, finally I got here. But in the early part of the story, you are trying to get to the point of going to Yosemite. But if you're going to go from Yosemite, to Yosemite from here, you are going to have to drive through Kansas. Has anybody ever been in Kansas?
Yes.
It is shaped approximately like a pancake, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's extremely boring. There are barely any trees, and when you see a hill in Kansas, it is this high. So it is very boring to drive through Kansas. So let's suppose that the author had a section where they were driving through Kansas, and they're going, that was so boring. I was driving through Kansas. I was so bored out of my mind. I was flipping around on my iPhone. Do we want to keep that part in? Spare me, right? Get through it. Summarize it. Find some words, use them, and get me out of there. I want to drive through Yosemite slow. Okay, so does that make sense? When you're editing, you want to edit with the effect in mind. When you're in this slow part, just get through it, right? And then you want to save your time for that exciting moment. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's what I had to say on that. I will go collect my thoughts.